Hey, welcome to Putting the Real in Real Estate for Realtors. Today we just hopped off of our Facebook profiles where we talk about real estate topics, give our opinions, mostly our opinion, a few facts. And today we're talking about multi-generational living. This is getting to be a pretty big topic in real estate. We actually had it on our agenda, and then Keeping Current Matters put out an infographic about it last week.
Absolutely.
So we learned some stats. Danielle, want to?
Yes. So for 2021, they said that roughly 1 out of 10 home buyers purchased a multi-generational home.
That's 10%.
So that is about 10% of the market out there.
That's a lot.
So that is something that I know I have a few just on my street. The people across the street and the people next door to me are multi-generational home buyers. And so it's not as, I feel like for a long time, it was like a, what's the word I'm looking for, where people would kind of look down on it. It was necessarily taboo, but it was one of those things where people would be judgy. Yeah, they would frown upon it.
And I think there's kind of like, I think it had to do with a little bit of the evolution of America. People came from other places where multi-generational living was common and just how it was done. And then there was this, American independence that was really prized. So the next generation that grew up may have grown up in a multi-generational family, but they felt like they were going to strike out on their own and they were going to, assert their independence and have, sort of stuck to that. But I think people are realizing how much sense it makes. I remember reading a book years ago thinking, this just is so much more reasonable than mom and dad stay in a house that doesn't serve them or move into an old people's home.
Yeah.
And they were comfortable and cared for and close by and they could help with kids. And, there's really a lot of benefit, help with household stuff as long as they're able.
Right.
Even we have a now adult 20-year-old son with special needs. And we've often been asked, especially through, the school system, et cetera, well, what are your plans? Do you want him to be independent? And I'm like, why? He can live here. He's like our Uncle Charlie. He does the laundry. He cooks. He does all sorts of things. I think it works really well. We'll give him as much independence as he wants, but why does he have to go live somewhere else to
be considered independent?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of non-special needs kids who are adults who aren't quite ready to take on all of the adult world. And it just makes so much more sense to stay a while longer. And, yes, we all understand there's the kid that needs to be pushed off the couch, but that doesn't mean all of them,
Right.
It doesn't mean it's a failure and I think that's what you were alluding to begin with. It was kind of considered a failure,
right,
on somebody's part. Either mom and dad didn't save enough to sustain themselves, or the kids aren't responsible enough to go off and fend for themselves.
Parents coddled them. The kids are lazy, whatever it may be. But there's so many reasons why one would choose to do that. And that's what they're saying, that, another one of the quick facts that they included on this was that the number of people living in multi-generational households has nearly quadrupled in the last 10 years. So some of that might have had to do with the crash, I'll
And
tell
we
you.
think of that happening during the crash, but this is really the last 10 years is pretty much post crash.
Right. I mean, I lived with my parents between moving from, one state to another for a few months.
I moved back a
While
few
we
times
while we closed up our home,
and they
our
always let me
household.
in.
And yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, and then, again, when we talked about it, some of it is because, combined home buying households or budgets. And then just wanting bonds, grandparents wanting to get to know the grandkids a little bit more, or being able to help, a child out again with grandkids when, somebody has to work odd hours or goes back to school or is trying a new career out. That would really help. And then again, on the back end, it's helping, an older generation, go. We moved my parents out of their house. Oh gosh, was it 5 years now? To a home that was a little smaller, no basement, so they didn't have to worry about, the things that might happen in a basement when they're not watching. And I'll tell you what, today I'm going, that's still not enough. I mean, they're getting to the part where dealing with cleaning is a problem. I'm trying to get, professionals out there, but it's still like, it's a half hour.
Well, and they've both been sick. And
yes.
So, to be there to care, they're not, sometimes they've been sick enough that they've had to be in the hospital. And so obviously then the hospital's kind of taken care of, but then you get that next step where they're home, but not quite able to be up and around and taking care of themselves. It takes a lot to drive to where they are.
Right. Half hour away, half hour there, half hour back, and then the several hours. So now I have to come up with 4 hours of my day. Not that they're not worth it, but it is still, all right, where do the kids have to go? Is my husband going to be able to come home and help me or not, from work, it's normal time, or is he working late? What are all of the pieces that have to be done? So this makes sense. So, we're not trying to talk you into multi-generational living, but we're just trying to, give you an idea of maybe that's something you talk to your clients about.
And listen for, is this something that they're thinking about exploring? Maybe they don't understand how prevalent it is right now. Maybe they're thinking in this old way. I don't want to be the one that people look at and think that I did something wrong because somebody lives with me who isn't just me. So listening and saying, as you're downsizing, as you're, moving into the next chapter of your life, who do you want to be near? Not just what kind of house do you want? But is there someone that we should be thinking about moving nearby? Most people drive less. My parents are no longer driving at night.
I was just going to say, that's the other thing. My parents have to time, if they come by, they have to time being home by the time it's dark.
Yeah, which in the winter is a real challenge.
Right. They're not basically having dinner.
Weather, they're not going to drive in that. So that limits their ability. And if a family with the grandchildren are thinking of moving, maybe near mom is something they want to consider. And then how near? We're talking about multi-generational homes where everyone's together inside one building. And we all know that there's, an option of a first floor bedroom with a bath can open up additional buyers. There's ways to look for that. Make sure listing agents that you're putting stuff like that somewhere where we can find it when we're searching.
Yes.
So hard. I've got somebody now looking for ranches, considering, 55 plus, and it's really difficult to set up searches that
don't
that actually include the things that they want. We talked about, not so much in our area, but in warmer climes, the granny pod idea, an outbuilding, coach house, converted garage or upstairs from a garage that could make a nice apartment for family. And to think of all of the different ways that a family can share living space whether it's elderly parents moving in with middle-aged adult children, or young adult children moving in with middle-aged adult parents, maybe even grandchildren moving in with grandparents. That can be a really great
Absolutely.
solution.
Absolutely.
Grandparent doesn't get lonely. They have somebody there to keep an eye on them.
I had a client like that.
Yeah, I have too.
One of Danielle's kids moved in with Dolores.
Yes, it's a great solution. And then adult child doesn't feel like they're living with their parents. They're helping out their grandparents. So that, feels a little more independent. Siblings, whether they're young siblings buying a first place, or elderly siblings who've lost a spouse and looking for company and somebody to, again, just be there and support.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of need for it, and I think we can also be part of the solution, part
Absolutely.
of helping people understand that this is a great solution and not something to shy away from.
Absolutely. So, and not to be salesy about it, but again, if we're creating a solution, if you are looking at these, maybe it's like, hey, you know what, you're not loving anything in your price point, but if you got a little bit bigger house, you had somebody move in with you, now you might have 2 sales.
And we have a housing shortage right now. So if you can find a way, and I actually have this going on now, we're preparing for a combined household of a family with young adult children, and mom and single sister who lives with mom now, all combining into a single household. And so 2 houses for sale, purchasing a larger one for them all. So, from a business standpoint, it's a great opportunity. We're also going to have 2 houses instead of just the replacing, the inventory that we're taking. We're going to have 2 houses for one. So expanding inventory when we do this.
Absolutely. So hopefully, you got a little thinking, food for thought really is what this is about. And the ways to market a great property to more than just a single family home. See if you can make it, multi-generational, or, maybe selling, if you have a property that is, a duplex, or has a couple different apartments within it. Instead of trying to sell it to investors as a rental opportunity, you might be able to sell it to, 2 kids that are, younger and trying to start out, and they don't want to, have a roommate, but they need somebody to help them, or again, a parent and kids and things like that. So there's just kind of thinking outside the box of how to market a home. And then also helping, especially if we continue having this, all of the costs and the prices and the interest rates continue to go up, and their buying powers are going down. This is a way of seeing if you can't kind of think out of that box and come up with a solution that works for a lot of people, not just
And this is one of the reasons why we really encourage neighbors to come to our open houses, and we market to neighbors. We don't see them as an annoyance. We don't call them nosy neighbors. We're thrilled to have neighbors come and check out any of our listings, because they can be a great source of buyers. Sometimes they have a sister or mother or cousin or somebody that they'd like to have close by. The person who, whenever they come over, says, "Oh, let me know if anything ever comes up in your neighborhood." They're ready to go. You don't have to sell them on anything.
Correct. Absolutely. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you in the next topic.